Roman soldiers feared something more than enemy swords. More than arrows. More than the screams of a night ambush. They feared their own toilets. Sounds insane, right? An empire that conquered half the known world, terrified of a hole in the ground? But here's the thing. That hole in the ground had killed more soldiers than most battles ever did. Silently. Invisibly. And nobody saw it coming until it was too late. So what was actually happening down there? Picture a Roman frontier fort. Cold wind cutting across stone walls. Thousands of men packed together, eating the same food, drinking the same water, sharing the same air. Now picture the latrine. A long stone bench. Rows of holes cut into it. No walls between them. No privacy at all. Soldiers sat shoulder to shoulder, doing the most vulnerable thing a human being can do, in front of total strangers. But that wasn't the scary part. Underneath that bench ran a channel of moving water, flushing waste away toward the river. Clever engineering. Almost modern. The kind of thing that made Rome look untouchable. Except that water carried something else, too. Something the Romans didn't have a name for. Something that could kill 1,000 men without a single blade being drawn. We're talking about disease. Real, documented, brutal disease. And the latrine was its launch pad. Let's go back to the beginning. Around 27 BC, the Roman army was already obsessed with order. Every camp followed the same layout. Same gates. Same streets. Same drainage. Latrines were no exception. Engineers placed them at the lowest point of the fort, so gravity could do the dirty work. Water flowed in from an aqueduct or nearby stream. It ran beneath the stone seats. It carried waste downstream, away from the soldiers. On paper, brilliant. In reality, a ticking time bomb. Because dozens of men used that bench every single day. Open wounds. Stomach infections. Parasites. All of it sat in that channel before the water carried it off. And here's where it gets worse. Sponges. Soldiers used a shared tool called a trasorium. A stick with a sponge tied to the end. Soap optional. Privacy non-existent. After use, the sponge went into a bucket of vinegar water, and got reused. By the next man. And the next. One contaminated sponge could pass infection through an entire barracks in a matter of days. No one understood bacteria back then. No one knew a single tool could carry death from one body to another. They just knew that men got sick. Fast. And nobody understood why. Now picture the smell. Imagine sitting in a cold stone room with 20 other men, no walls, no doors, the stench of shared waste curling through the air, and a sponge stick handed to you that's already touched a stranger's body. This wasn't just gross. It was psychologically brutal. Soldiers who could face a charging enemy without flinching, dreaded the latrine line. Some held it in for hours. Some went outside the walls at night, breaking curfew, risking punishment, just to avoid the shared bench. Stomach pain became a constant companion. Cramping. Diarrhea. Dehydration. In a unit that marched 20 miles a day, a bad stomach could be just as dangerous as a wound. And there was no quiet suffering. Everyone heard everything. Embarrassment mixed with fear, every single day. Here's where the stakes turn deadly. Roman military records and archaeological digs near forts like Vindolanda reveal something chilling. Outbreaks of dysentery and intestinal parasites ripped through entire garrisons. Not isolated cases. Entire units, weakened at once. A general couldn't fight a war with half his men doubled over in pain. Commanders who ignored sanitation watched their armies collapse without ever meeting the enemy. Some legions lost more men to disease during a single campaign season than they lost in actual combat. Not because Rome's enemies were stronger, but because biology doesn't care about military rank. This is why latrine maintenance became a matter of survival, not comfort. Neglect it, and you don't lose a battle. You lose an army. Compare this to other ancient forces.
Clear that blockage
Many
now.
tribal
Let the
armies
water
squatted
flow
in
through.
open fields, no system at all, but also fewer men packed into one space, so disease spread slower. Medieval armies, centuries later, often had worse sanitation than Rome did. Soldiers in siege camps sometimes lived in their own filth for weeks. Plague tore through medieval forces with terrifying speed. Rome's system was advanced for its time. Genuinely impressive engineering. But here's the twist, their sophistication created new dangers nobody had a name for. The very technology meant to protect them, sometimes became the silent killer. So why did Roman soldiers fear their own latrines? Because that one shared space combined every deadly ingredient ancient medicine couldn't fight: filth, density, shared tools, and invisible pathogens. It wasn't a single villain. It was a system. A daily ritual hiding constant risk behind clever architecture. The latrine wasn't just a bathroom. It was a battlefield no sword could win. So here's a question worth sitting with. If Rome's engineers were smart enough to build aqueducts that still stand today, why couldn't they figure out the one thing that was killing their own men? Maybe the real lesson is this: the deadliest threats in history were never the obvious ones. They were hiding in routine. In things people did without thinking twice. And if you think Roman sanitation was rough, wait until you hear what their battlefield medics did with rusty tools and no anesthesia. That video is coming next.
This ordinary room has become a battlefield no sword can win.
What invisible dangers history still hides in everyday life.